This is Dr. Thomas Klein. I'm a specialist in rare and painful diseases. I'm coming to you from my bunker in Raleigh, North Carolina. People ask about the kinds of patients I have, the 34 patients that I have. What I did was I selected people that I got to know on social media, talked with them, had them call me, obtain information. These are patients that I suspected had one of the rare painful diseases, which you can Google medium catalog Klein. It's a catalog of pain diseases, and had been refused pain treatment by more than 5 doctors, and as many as 10 in some cases. One of my patients had suffered from intermittent duodenal obstruction for 10 years. 10 years. And nobody would get out their prescription pad and write for one of the safest medications we have, the opiate painkillers. And when I say that, people want to come with pitchforks saying it's not safe. But it is safe. If you pass the threshold of not becoming addicted, and you can do that simply by the doctor saying, hey, you ever had an opiate before? We are continuing to collect data from addicts. They definitely addicted on the very first 2 or 3 pills. It's genetic. Police running around trying to arrest doctors for prescribing too much are not going to accomplish anything. There has been no evidence that police action over the last 100 years has made a dent in the opiate pain medicine / addiction problem, and that's because it doesn't matter how much is out there. It only takes 2 tablets to get started, and people who are then addicted should go straight to a doctor for treatment. But if they come to me and I don't have a license from the National Drug Police, I can be arrested. This is something that Congress really needs to look into. It's not the police's fault. They do what they're told. Now, the police also believe in if you cut down on what's on the street, you're going to cut down on addiction. From what we've just said, that's not true. But we're seeing this in action on a daily basis, because my patients cannot get my prescriptions filled. So the topic of the day is it's time to act. We've had too much talk, and here's something we can actually focus on. We have been seeing discriminatory activity on the part of pharmacists claiming they're afraid of the police, using the excuse, I don't feel comfortable. That's like back in the 60s when they had big signs up, we reserve the right to refuse service. Recently, a pharmacist wanted to not provide day after pills for women, saying it was her right not to do that, and the court said, sorry, it is your duty to do that. So we have a lot of duty questions, and they've all been in favor of patients or parishioners or whatever. So we have a physician in Charlotte who's a pain expert, seeing my patients during this interim. These patients, like I say, saw 5 doctors. The assumption was, they can just go see another doctor. Well, wait a minute, that's why they were in my practice, because nobody else would see them. And that's still true today. We have 2 angel doctors who are helping out, but we've only found a doctor for 1 person in the 34 who have these terrible diseases. The problem with my patients with these real serious diseases that nobody wanted to treat is they're complicated. Sometimes they require a lot of medication or multiple medications. But in all 34 cases, lives have been restored. People have gone from lying on a couch to being employed. Relationships have started up again. A lot of couples weren't having sex because they're in pain all the time, weren't going to church or shul. So this is a miraculous drug. And the federal drug police don't really appreciate that. And they need to sit down with us doctors and figure out a way to appreciate the fact how wonderful these drugs are and how few are going to end up causing problems. We need to exchange information. We need to figure out how to catch the hustlers that are selling these drugs for $6,000 and $7,000 and not making any, not paying any taxes. So what's happening is the pharmacists are frightened, and so they are refusing to fill prescriptions, which the Board of Pharmacy is, oh, they have a right to do it. No, they don't. They don't have a right to say, I don't feel comfortable. We had one patient go to a Charlotte pharmacy and had a legitimate prescription from the doctor. They said, we're not going to fill it. Nasty. We're not going to fill it. Why not? We're not comfortable. And hostile. When I tried to get a patient's prescription approved by the mail order TRICARE, it was a high dose, and the 3 pharmacists all got together and decided the dose was too high. And I said, well, the FDA says there's no such thing as a high dose. I know, but all 3 of us were uncomfortable. So we have something that we can now do. We can go to the legislature and say, we want a law or regulation that says fill every legitimate prescription, period. If the pharmacist cannot fill a prescription, they have to call the prescriber, which they never do now, and then document in the pharmacy records why the prescription is not being filled. Then a report should be sent to the Board of Pharmacy. This will also alert the pharmacy for legitimate issues, like suddenly there's a shortage in antibiotics or other medications, and they'll have instant data alertness. But it's also going to tell the pharmacist, no, not any of this anymore. If you don't want to fill a prescription because you're afraid, then you need to put on the report why you're afraid and what's going on. And what's going on with a lot of pharmacies in Raleigh, where none of my patients can get a prescription filled. None. None of the pharmacies. Because they don't feel comfortable filling prescriptions for oxycodone. Now, for some reason, oxycodone has become the new heroin. So we're going to fight heroin, and since we haven't succeeded with that, we're going to fight oxycodone. Well, oxycodone is our most inexpensive, best, most efficient oral opiate pain medicine. And it has suddenly become demonized. I don't know why or who, but it's filtering down to the distributors that are sending out the medicines to the pharmacies under a new system, where if the pharmacy is ordering medicines, opiate medicines, at a higher level than their average, they're turned down. Our go-to pharmacy in Raleigh, the Glenwood South Pharmacy, one of the most professional pharmacies in the area, I've dealt with them for many years, suddenly doesn't have a distributor. We talked about last time the distributors cutting off people. We have information that in Jacksonville, North Carolina, based on one of the patients of ours who did a survey, about 26 of the pharmacies are now limited to a certain number of pills per month, and therefore the number of pills per prescription. Can you imagine that? We've got the government telling distributors they can't send the medicines to the pharmacy, and it ends up with my patients being cut off and returning to the way they were before their lives were saved by opiate pain medicine. Go to your legislators and tell them, we want all our prescriptions filled. And if they're not filled, we want to file reasons why they were not filled. No more of this pharmacist, oh, they have the right to turn down prescriptions. Yeah, well, I have the right to turn down medicines for anybody. If somebody comes in and heart failure, oh, I have the right to turn down diuretics and digitalis. I have the right to do that. We've got to stop this. This is grossly unethical. Thank you, and good night.